Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 189. The Fish That Saved a Life. The autumn air was crisp and refreshing. Li Jinglong first led Hung Jun towards the Jin Palace to formally thank Li Hung and Li Longji. They were informed, however, that Li Hung had left early that morning with Guo Suiyi to Lingwu, taking the 6 armies with him, to receive the edict that Li Longji was abdicating the throne. They were currently preparing to perform the sacrificial rites at Lingwu. After reaching the inner palace of the Jin Palace, Hung Jun immediately saw that amidst the sighing of the autumn wind, the stooped figure of an old man was standing amidst the falling parasol tree leaves, staring left and right. Li Jinglong said, "The Marquis of Shu, Li Jinglong, requests an audience with His Majesty." That old man turned his head, and Hung Jun and Li Jinglong both startled. That was Li Longji. "Where are the bodyguards?" Li Jinglong immediately exploded. He shouted, "Gao Lishi! General Gao!" Gao Lishi had gone to the exorcism department bright and early that morning to deliver the imperial edict, and upon returning, was currently sitting in his room drinking tea and wiping his sweat. In name, Li Longji was abdicating, but in reality, everyone knew clearly that the real reason was that the crown prince was forcing him out of his position. Otherwise, the events on the Ma'i slope wouldn't have occurred. This emperor who had once commanded so much power that even nature bent to his will had actually fallen to such a state today of desolation and decay. "Ao," Gao Lishi bewailed, "Marquis of Yadan, no, Marquis of Shu, I am only a single individual. How can I manage to keep up with all these tasks that would require someone with 3 heads and 6 arms? Haven't I also just returned to the palace? Quell your rage, quell your rage. Your Majesty, what is all this for now?" Li Longji's hair was white and wispy, and his face was covered in dark spots. He seemed to be searching for something behind the tree, and without further ado, Gao Lishi helped him up and dragged him back to his rooms. Li Longji shouted, "Let me see." Yahuans arrived. Li Jinglong found himself speechless for a moment. He stood amidst that bleak autumn wind, unsure of what to say. A moment later, he stepped inside to give Li Longji his thanks. Hung Jun walked around a bit in the yard, once again feeling the pain and torment that old age and illness brought to mortals. "All humans will grow old and die," the Carpiao said from its spot on Hung Jun's back. The Carpiao was growing longer and longer, and Hung Jun was already a little unable to piggyback it around. Hung Jun suddenly asked, "Will Jinglong also become like this?" "Of course he will," the Carpiao said. "When you grow old, both the dishonor and glory you've gathered over your lifetime will become nothing but clouds floating by in your vision. See how pitiful it is. How pathetic. After Li Jinglong grows old, he might even then, I will still like him very much," Hung Jun said. "For us to have been able to walk this life together means that we will have seen it through to the end." The Carpiao. Their conversation came so abruptly to an end. Hung Jun suddenly thought of something else, but the Carpiao said, "Put me down and let's walk around." Hung Jun set the Carpiao down in the flower garden and went behind the tree, trying to see what exactly the old man was looking for. He suddenly spotted a hole in the ground, almost a chi in size, with a good amount of weeds growing around it. He squatted down to peer into the hole, when suddenly, a white, furry fox head popped out of it and startled him. "Shh, that fox said. Hung Jun, you. It's me." The fox's voice was that of Yu Zayun, and it bounded over in a few steps, burrowing into Hung Jun's arms. Hung Jun fell back onto the ground. Yu Zayun continued, "Have you found a location for the Yao capital? In the morning, I heard that Li Jinglong was bestowed with the title of the Marquis of Shu, so the location's been selected, right?" "Wait," Hung Jun was shocked. "You have a body now?" "I picked it up in the mountains, it'll do for now," Yu Zayun said. "I couldn't rest easy, so I came back to check on him." In the dim room, Gao Lishi held Li Longji down behind the table, feeding him spoonful after spoonful of ginseng soup. From time to time, he would say, "Your Majesty, here, open your mouth, ahh." Li Longji's whiskers were covered in oil, and the soup had spilled all over him, yet Gao Lishi did not have the presence of mind to wipe it for him. This room was dank and dark, and no wind could pass through. The swarms of handmaidens and bodyguards that had once filled the rooms had long since disappeared. Back then, when Li Longji and Yang Yahuan had fled out of Chang'an, they had left behind a large portion of their palace attendants, and it had been only thanks to Hung Jun's help that he had mobilized the 6 armies and protected the families of the aristocrats and those palace attendants as they escaped the city. The emperor had abandoned his people and focused solely on fleeing, and because of that, lacked any people to wait on him now. There were only a few handmaidens waiting outside for any commands. Almost all of the advisors had changed their tunes entirely and run off to the crown prince for a fresh start. Only the old advisor Gao Lishi was left to keep the old emperor company all on his own. In the past, he had been impossibly haughty and arrogant, but now he was left with the task of guarding the emperor's autumn years, which was also a miserable task. Li Jinglong simply wanted to find something to say, but Li Longji was already dazed and confused, lost in his own head, and no matter what Li Jinglong had to say, he wouldn't hear it. At this sight, Li Jinglong couldn't help but think of Hung Jun and himself. He was immortal, and would grow old, but Hung Jun might never grow old or die. In the future, after many years, he might end up departing this life and leaving Hung Jun behind all alone. What could he do then? After searching his thoughts for a while, Li Jinglong only said one thing. "What are General Gao's plans for the future?" "I've grown old," Gao Lishi said, "and though my ambitions are plentiful, my strength is lacking. I'll remain here and keep His Majesty company." At the same time, the Carpiao had circled the garden a few times. When it arrived in the back courtyard, it suddenly saw 2 pheasants looking pityingly down at their own reflections in the water. "Hey!" The Carpiao finally found them. That day, it had been swimming idly around in the inner city moat when, from afar, it had spotted what it thought were some old acquaintances. At that time, however, it couldn't get into the inner palace. Today, it had come specifically to look for these old chicken friends. Ever since Fat Green and Skinny Red had flown away from Chang'an, they and the Carpiao had been scattered to the winds. For some reason, they had ended up in the Shu region palace, and had therefore become pets in Li Longji's courtyard. Upon seeing a long fish running towards it, Fat Green asked, "What's that thing?" "A grass carp that's become a spirit," Skinny Red replied coldly. "It's me." "It's me," the Carpiao said. The 2 pheasants' faces were still cold and aloof. The Carpiao added, "It's me. Zhao Zilong. The fish that saved your lives." Fat Green and Skinny Red remembered, and together they exclaimed, "Oh! Our honored benefactor. So it's our honored benefactor." The pheasants looked at each other, before pretending to greet the Carpiao with great enthusiasm. The Carpiao then said, "Say, what a coincidence that you 2 ended up here." The pheasants thought at the same time, "It isn't here to ask us to repay it, is it?" The Carpiao was beside itself with glee, and it felt very close to these 2. After all, they had all survived through some dire straits together. It asked, "How did you 2 end up here?" As it turned out, after the 2 pheasants left Chang'an, they had originally planned to return to the lands of Shu. Unfortunately, they were too far away from home, and the roads of the Guangzhou region crisscrossed often and were very complicated. The pheasants' feathers were also very brightly colored, and they were afraid of drawing the attention of the humans, so they had no choice but to travel at night. Not only were they traveling in the dark of the night, the pheasants also had no sense of direction, so they circled around and around. They managed to spend almost 2 years circling around without leaving the central plains, and finally, exhausted and on their last legs, they decided to temporarily take up residence in Chenkang. After that, with the Ungshi rebellion, Chang'an fell into chaos, and Li Longji's army entered the Shu region. When they arrived in Chenkang, the mountains blocked their way, and it was only then that the pheasants learned that heading westward meant that they would enter the Shu region. They were ecstatic, and they used up every ounce of their strength in applying their Yao powers to move a stone blocking the road aside, revealing the mountain path. After Yang Yahuan died, Li Longji would have moments of clarity from time to time. Daolishi felt the fear of a headless fly, and he immediately decreed that the pheasants were divine beings sent by the heavens themselves. He also changed the name of Chenkang to Baiji, so the pheasants were elevated to the level of national treasures and brought into the Shu region. They were then stowed away in this garden to ensure its safety. Upon hearing that story, the Carpiao couldn't help but be deeply affected. Fat Green and Skinny Red looked sympathetically at the Carpiao, asking, "How about you? How are you doing these days? At first we thought you had died." The Carpiao turned around to let them look, saying, "I'm going to transform into a dragon." "Congratulations," the pheasants said, with neither too much nor too little emotion. The Carpiao continued, "Being a Yao, of course, means that you need to have a grand vision and lofty aspirations. Don't you two want to overcome all class differences and become phoenixes? Are you insane?" Fat Green asked. "The aquatic tribes cultivating into dragons is something that the heavens have decreed, but fowl and phoenixes are two different breeds, okay? A phoenix is a phoenix from the moment of its birth, while a fowl is a fowl from the moment of its birth. Have you ever heard of a fowl cultivating into a phoenix? Why don't you tell us about that?" When the Carpiao thought about it, that was true. It seemed to have forgotten that the laws of nature could not be broken. It then suddenly felt that pheasants, as a breed, seemed to be naturally indifferent and apathetic. Plus, they didn't care about how it was going to become a dragon, and for a time, it found them very boring. "Oh, honored benefactor, want an earthworm?" Skinny Red scratched at the ground a few times before pulling out an earthworm to give to the Carpiao. The Carpiao, however, turned it down. "No thanks, I'll be going back now. Let's leave it at that. How did you get in?" "With Hung Jun, duh." "Hung Jun?" Fat Green and Skinny Red both tried to recall. "Mahamayuri. When Yaojin Palace sent out the avian summons, did you two not go?" the Carpiao asked. "Now he's become the Yao King." The two pheasants immediately flapped their wings vigorously, speeding away like two shadows with a shua, vanishing right in front of the Carpiao's eyes. "Great King! Your Majesty!" Hung Jun was currently idly chatting with Yu Zayun about Li Jinglong, when suddenly two pheasants dashed over and tried to throw themselves on him. That scared Hung Jun greatly. The pheasants had also ruffled all their feathers with their leap, and they opened their mouths, squawking endlessly. Hung Jun felt as if his head was spinning, and his side was filled with feathers. "Great King, we've been suffering so much waiting for you. Great King, please take in this lowly one. Great King, you're so handsome." That's right, that's right. No wonder you're called Hung Jun." "Shut up." Yu Zayun raged. "I hate you birds the most, you're driving me insane with the noise." Though Yu Zayun had found a little fox as her physical shell, her mannerisms were still the same. The pheasants immediately fell quiet, as silent as chickens carved out of wood. Hung Jun said, "You guys. We are Fat Green and Skinny Red of the lands of Shu. Upon hearing that Milord had arrived in Bashu, we have specially come to swear our allegiance to you. While Chang'an was being fought over, we had just received the avian summons, but when we hurriedly flew over we found the battle had already concluded." Li Jinglong came out as well. Upon seeing two chickens being so affectionate and crowding in front of Hung Jun, calling out to him non-stop, he found himself completely confused. Daolishi walked out into the courtyard, and upon seeing that the chickens knew how to talk, let out a yelp. He shouted, "Yaogwai!" Hung Jun did his best and figured out that the two fowl were here to swear their allegiance, So he nodded and said, "Here, come with me." It was only then that the Carpiao arrived, only to see that Fat Green and Skinny Red seemed to have become completely different birds. They were doing their utmost to flatter Hung Jun, trying to lavishly praise him high up in the skies, and all of the Carpiao's scales stood on end, its rage unquenchable. Hung Jun, however, cupped his hands and bid Li Longji farewell, before taking the fox, the carp, and the 2 chickens along as he left with Li Jinglong. "I think that if there is a chance, it's best if I let you 2 meet again," Hung Jun said to Yu Zayun as they left the Shu Palace. Yu Zayun replied mildly, "Maybe. Sometimes, seeing one another again is worse than never seeing each other again. Moreover, to be truthful, the one he loves isn't really me. Yang Yahuan died a long time ago. Right now, I am Yu Zayun. It's the same though, right?" Hung Jun said. "You've always been in Yahuan's heart." Yu Zayun fell silent. The pheasants hurried to curry favor. "You should go see him again." "That's right. Since these feelings still linger, it's best to properly see them to the end, isn't it?" Yu Zayun lost her temper, and she said, "What does it have to do with you two?" Foxes were natural enemies of fowl, but with Hung Jun there, the pheasants were completely unafraid. They continued on, ending each other's sentences, causing such a racket that Li Jinglong's head hurt. After leaving the palace, Li Jinglong did not return to the inn. Instead, he rented a large carriage and had the driver take them out of the city, before sending Zhao Yun, who had stayed in the inn, a message to pack some changes of clothes and bring to Reindict along into the carriage. With this many animals crowded into the carriage, a huashi, a fox, 2 pheasants, and a carpiao, Li Jinglong felt as if he had become the ringmaster of a circus. "Where are we going?" Hung Jun felt soothed by the good autumn weather. "We're heading out on a vacation to survey the lands that I've been bestowed as the Marquis of Shu," Li Jinglong said, picking off the feathers that stuck to him. "I'm also bringing you to select the new location for the Yao capital." The location had to be selected as soon as possible, because there were still many more things to do. In the 120 days while they waited for Atai and Ashinakayan to return, Li Jinglong would have to take care of the issue of the Yao capital. He would also have to head to Zoich to find the other Akalanatha artifact. Upon hearing his words, the Yaogwai all began to cheer, and even Yu Zayun couldn't help voicing her gratitude. "We'll finally have a home." Yu Zayun hadn't imagined that after the Yao tribes had been split for some thousands of years, it would be a mortal man who helped them rebuild their country. The Carpiao added, "I'm going to transform into a dragon, so you'll need to leave me a slightly bigger pool to live in. Once you transform into a dragon, you won't live there any longer," Hung Jun chuckled. "I'll still come back and visit you guys in the future," the Carpiao protested. Li Jinglong ordered the big cart to head out of Chengdu. They first caught a ship and traveled down the Min River. This time, the ship was going with the current, and in no more than a day and a half, they arrived in Yuzhou. They also took the opportunity to purchase some food and clothes for Tu Reindict and Chen Feng, who had been left in Chengdu, and once they headed back, they would then discuss choosing the location of the Yao capital with Hang Olan. The plan was to first borrow some money and goods from him, which they would then slowly pay him back for through setting up easily accessible trade with the Yao tribes. After leaving Yuzhou, they continued to head downstream, arriving at Fengjia. At Fengjia, they came ashore and switched over to riding horses. Fat Green and Skinny Red's previous home was actually located near the Three Gorges, and they were overcome with joy, so they quickly ran off. Hung Jun had experienced several years' worth of battles, and ever since they had arrived in Chang'an, he hadn't had the chance to pass the time so leisurely and carefree. He felt that these mountains and this wilderness were ethereal and incomparably lovely. "Look, everything we've done was worth it." Li Jinglong smiled at Hung Jun as he bought Xiaobing in Fengjia's market. "Worth it," Hung Jun replied. After leaving Fengjia town, they crossed through the ancient fortresses that littered Bashu, whose fortifications lay scattered across the region. The landscapes they passed through had a feel similar to that of the Taihang Mountains, but they didn't seem to be as forceful and archaic as the Taihang Mountains were. Instead, they had an air of elegance about them. Bashu was a land of valiant heroes and fair sights, and the further they went into the mountains, the more abundant the spiritual qi of the world was. Li Jinglong's magic all came from the heart lamp, so he couldn't sense it, and he wasn't familiar with the art of geomancy, but the Yaoguai were as sensitive towards spiritual qi as humans were to humidity. If we travel forward for another half a day, we'll reach Wu Ridge, Li Jinglong said, spreading open the map in the canyon and studying it alongside Hung Jun. This region contains one of the locations that we originally pinpointed, with a dragon vein. With that reminder, Hung Jun immediately remembered. Maybe there's an artifact there. It might not be there, Li Jinglong said. But what I can confirm is that locations where the spiritual qi is abundant are also locations where the earth veins intersect with each other. End chapter. Tianbao Fu Yao Lu. Chapter 190. The Snake of Ba Mountain. The valley was swathed in a fresh, vivid green. The Yaoguai all went their own separate ways. Fat Green and Skinny Red were heading to where they used to live to visit their relatives and friends. The Carpiao entered the water of the spring, swimming about, while Yu Zayun had gone off somewhere. Only Zhao Yun was standing loyally behind the two of them, keeping them company as he carried their bags. Several times, Li Jinglong tried to get Zhao Yun to go wander off as well, so that there wouldn't be another person around and to spare him embarrassment while he tried to get intimate with Hung Jun, but Zhao Yun insisted on following Hung Jun. That, Li Jinglong said to Zhao Yun, "Snake bro, if you're free you can also walk around as you want. You don't need to follow us." Zhao Yun was confused. "Then what should I do if Milord has any requests?" Li Jinglong replied, "I'll be fine waiting on him." "That won't do," Zhao Yun said. "That is our duty." Li Jinglong said helplessly, "With you beside us, it's not convenient for us to, that." Zhao Yun, "What?" Li Jinglong crooked his thumb, meaning that, and the fog of confusion in Zhao Yun's mind cleared. "Oh, you want to twine your tails together? Go ahead and do that, I won't disturb you. I can even teach you guys some positions. Our bodies are very flexible, Jinglong Xiang. While you do that to him, you can also coil around." Li Jinglong. "Zhao Yun, us snakes do it with several of us together, each one intertwined with the next. If you don't understand, then feel free to ask me." Li Jinglong put his forehead in his hands and went back to go find Hung Jun. When Hung Jun heard that, he laughed loudly, before finally telling Zhao Yun to go scout out the road ahead, thus sending him away. Hung Jun said to Li Jinglong, "It seems like snakes are always like that. When I was small, I even saw 4 snakes coiled together, twining their tails." Li Jinglong and Hung Jun broke out some pastries to eat, as they sat under the shade of a vast tree. There was already no road ahead. Li Jinglong asked amused, "What is your true form like? I haven't seen it before." "I'm just like this," Hung Jun said. "Did you want to get on top of a male peacock? That's really weird." Li Jinglong almost spewed his entire pastry out. Hung Jun suddenly realized that as well, and he asked, "Why have I been the way I am since I was born?" "It's probably because of your mother," Li Jinglong replied. Qing Xiang and Chongming both had Yao forms, and Kong Xian probably had one too, but Hung Jun couldn't turn into a peacock. After Hung Jun thought about it for a bit, he added, "Right now, my body doesn't have too much to do with my mom and dad anymore either, since Chongming gave it to me." Chongming had molded Hung Jun's body for him, while Li Jinglong had molded his soul. Hung Jun, as of now, could not strictly be said to be purely Mahamayuri any longer. The recasting that Li Jinglong had done had repaired Hung Jun's cracked, shattered soul, then rebuilt his 307 Po, so the power of Mahamayuri still resided in him. It had simply changed to become a result of the interactions of the heart lamp, the pentacolor sacred light, and the true power of the phoenix. Then will you live for a long time? Li Jinglong asked, seemingly unconcerned. Like Chongming did. I think I won't, probably. Hung Jun replied easily. The day that you die, the heart lamp will disperse, and so will my Hunpo. Li Jinglong. When Li Jinglong was thusly reminded, he also remembered that Hung Jun's Hunpo were created from his magic. After he died, Hung Jun's Hunpo would scatter as well, and they would return to the heavens and the earth together. That's right, Li Jinglong murmured to himself. I had forgotten. Hung Jun turned to look at Li Jinglong, and the ghost of a smile appeared on his face. Li Jinglong wanted to say something more, but Hung Jun leaned in and kissed him instead, as if he already knew what he was thinking. He then sat astride Li Jinglong and began to undo the ties of his robes. How will we entwine? Hung Jun asked, amusedly. Why don't you give it a try? Li Jinglong turned over and trapped Hung Jun underneath him as the two of them laughed. Li Jinglong tried to entwine tails as Zhao Yun had described, but he had been a practitioner of hard techniques since he was young, and though his shoulders were broad and his legs were long because of that, he was unable to contort himself into strange styles. Thankfully, he was naturally gifted, and his thing was quite well endowed, so it didn't come sliding out. The two of them played around for a while before Hung Jun began to pant, only for bean-sized drops of rain to come falling down from the sky. The rains of autumn came on very quickly, and soon rain pattered down on the leaves. Li Jinglong was about halfway done, so he said, let's find a place to hide for a while. Don't leave me, Hung Jun said in reply, hugging Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong said quietly into his ear, all right then, we'll ignore it. The autumn rain filled the world. Li Jinglong used his muscled, bare back and shoulders to block the rain as he hugged Hung Jun, the two of them completely drenched as they entangled under the tree. Rainwater dripped down his hair and slid down his neck, waist, and abdomen, bringing the warmth of his body with it as it flowed over Hung Jun's body. At that moment, both their bodies felt as if they were burning. It wasn't until they were done that the rain lessened somewhat, and the two of them finally rose to their feet, still sopping wet. They were covered in water, which flowed down past their muscles. We're going to catch colds, Li Jinglong was torn between laughing and crying. Hung Jun replied, we won't. We both have the true essence of the blazing flames within our bodies. Li Jinglong suddenly realized that he didn't seem to be afraid of the cold any longer, and when he was with Hung Jun, he felt especially warm. Though his clothes were soaked through, his chest muscles and the center of his chest felt as if a blazing fire was burning within them, fending off the chill from the outside world. Just as they finished putting on their clothes, Zhao Yun returned. There's a mountain up ahead, the one that you spoke of, Zhao Yun said. Want to go find a cave to hide out in for a bit? I can also have my comrades bring Fat Green, Skinny Red, and Zilong back. Li Jinglong held Hung Jun's hand, and they went to find somewhere to shelter from the rain. Zhao Yun opened up a path through the brambles, before he whistled to summon his Huashi comrades back. He then sent them back out to search for the carp Yao and the pheasant Yao. Not long after, the rain passed and the sky cleared again, and their clothes slowly dried as well. The carp Yao and the pheasants had also returned, so Li Jinglong decided not to wait for Yu Zayun before heading further in. This mountain, the pheasant Yao said, after glancing over the soaked map. Maybe it's best not to go after all. Why's that? Li Jinglong asked curiously. The two pheasants looked at each other for a while, before finally saying to Hung Jun, Your Majesty, a very impressive Yaoguai is rumored to live on this mountain, and it's even harder to deal with than a dragon. Li Jinglong immediately remembered the barrier that had been erected on Mount Gu in the Shiwei region. Did every barrier have a Yaoguai sealed within it? The Yaoguai that had been sealed under the artifact on Mount Gu in the north was the Dream Taper, and the ones in the Dragon Subduing Tower were a bunch of Qiao, so what was sealed under the Longmen Mountains? Perhaps, a long time ago, It had been wine, lust, greed, and pride, which was to say, it was very likely that an artifact was present in the Wu mountain range. What Yaoguai could it be, to be more difficult than a dragon? Hung Jun asked. Fat Green, they were just rumors we heard. After all, minor Yao like us have never seen dragons before. The carp Yao, you'll soon have a chance. Li Jinglong, don't divert the topic. Otherwise it'll be your turn to go first. The carp Yao. It's a snake, Skinny Red said. Rumor says that it's named the boss snake. Bring Yangxi here, Li Jinglong requested Zhao Yun. We'll continue to head forward. The valley was narrow and winding, and it led into the depths of the Wu Mountains. The peak of the goddess stood tall over the great river, while a continuous, unbroken line of towering peaks rose behind it. That valley's twists and turns led them around a lofty green mountain, which the residents of this area called Tianluo, referring to the sheer veil that floated around the goddess. Wow! Hung Jun couldn't resist his exclamation of surprise when he stopped in front of this mountain range. Wow, the Yaoguai also exclaimed. What are you all wowing for? Li Jinglong asked, confused. The carp Yao, I don't know. They were wowing, so I wowed too. Li Jinglong. Hung Jun, this spiritual energy. If the spiritual energy of the world in the Three Gorges was as plentiful as the humidity in the air, then the spiritual energy concentration here was like that of a clouds. It basically wafted straight into their faces, and the flow of the earth veins below released a powerful swell of energy, which only increased the sensation. Zhao Yun sucked in a few deep breaths and said, cultivating here immediately makes me feel like a different being. Pretty good, isn't it? Li Jinglong asked, chuckling. This is the region I've been bestowed. Hung Jun piped up, now it belongs to me. And saying that, he dashed on ahead, swiftly heading up Tianluo Mountain. Li Jinglong raced after him. This place seemed to have remained almost untouched ever since the creation of the world, and it maintained its natural, most primitive landscape. Spiritual chi flowed outwards from the untouched land, and the natural terrain was the best place to cultivate. In the Jin period, these types of places had been called blessed spots. Tianluo Mountain had no paths leading up it, but once in a while they saw some markers left behind by medicine pickers as they had passed through. The two of them struggled up to about the middle of the mountain, only to find that the sky had already grown dark. Li Jinglong then found a mountain cave, and he and Hung Jun settled in for the night there, preparing to continue their survey of the mountain tomorrow morning. Technically speaking, if they decided to build the capital here, they would need to build a vast platform halfway up the mountain, before beginning to build structures on top of it. According to Hung Jun, now was a good time to call the Yao Kings over, but Li Jinglong insisted on finishing their survey and drawing a map first, before heading back and finding some skilled craftsmen to lay out some designs in order to see how they could use this mountain. But no matter which method they chose, they would still need to greet their neighbors. After walking for an entire afternoon, only to still find no sign of where the artifact was sealed, Li Jinglong felt a dim sense of something not being right. Where is the boss snake? Hung Jun asked Fat Green and Skinny Red. The two pheasants were nodding off on the tree, and naturally they did not know. To fowl, many animals posed dangers to them, and snakes were simply one of the many, so naturally they wouldn't have run off to specially get a rise out of a great Yaoguai. Sleep, Li Jinglong said, pulling Hung Jun into his arms. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. They started a campfire in the cave. Li Jinglong looked over the rations that they had brought and estimated that they would last for another 2 or 3 days, but since Zhao Yun had helped them catch some wild game on the way here, they were not pressed for food. After night fell, rain began to fall again across Tianluo Mountain, drip-dropping down. Hung Jun pillowed his head on Li Jinglong's chest, wrapped his arms around his waist, and fell asleep very quickly. Li Jinglong, however, kept his eyes open. In the middle of the night, the sword of wisdom began to glow faintly. Li Jinglong. He looked down at the sword at his side and gently pulled Hung Jun off him. Just like it had in the Walking Palace, Akala's artifact was resonating with this mountain. He carefully stepped over the Carpiao, who was lying horizontally in the pool. Zhao Yun's head was lowered, and he was currently nodding off, but when he saw Li Jinglong step out, he glanced up and moved to rise. Li Jinglong, however, gestured for him to go back and guard Hung Jun, but Zhao Yun indicated back that there wasn't any need for that. This is an artifact, Li Jinglong said, immediately growing anxious. His heartbeat sped up. The fourth artifact is about to appear. He pointed the sword at the mountain. Zhao Yun transformed into a huashi and flew into the air. Li Jinglong climbed onto its back, saying, "Thanks." Zhao Yun replied, "You're the Empress, so this is what I should be doing anyways." Li Jinglong. Zhao Yun flew a half circle around the mountain, but the glow of the sword of wisdom in Li Jinglong's hand did not lessen at all. When he flew up towards the peak, however, the glow weakened somewhat. "Where is it?" the huashi asked. "Inside the mountain," Li Jinglong said. "Get a little closer." As expected, as soon as the huashi approached the mountain, the sword glowed brighter, but no matter how they circled around, they couldn't find an entrance. The rain fell harder and harder, and the light of the heart lamp shone forth from Li Jinglong's hand. Just as he was about to give up and come back to search tomorrow, he suddenly saw that something odd was going on with the backside of Tianluo Mountain. It looked as if the body of the mountain had been shaven a little flatter, and there were fallen trees and stones blocking it. But two green points of light glowed from that cliffside, as if a huge snake was laying in wait there in the darkness. "Let's take a look here." Li Jinglong had Zhao Yun get a little closer. There was nowhere to stand there, it was a steep cliffside, and if they couldn't fly, there would be no way for them to get up. The huashi pressed up against the cliffside, its wings flapping incessantly, as Li Jinglong pulled the vines down. Suddenly, an odd array appeared on the cliffside. Li Jinglong released the light of the heart lamp, which lit up the cliffside. On it was drawn a lifelike peacock, with two translucent pieces of green jade as its eyes. What Li Jinglong had seen just now must have been the light reflecting off those two pieces of jade. This, Li Jinglong pressed his fingers to the peacock's eyes, unaware that he still had the heart lamp activated. When his hand touched, the magic was instantly sucked away by the peacock's eyes, and with a boom, the entire cliffside vanished. What replaced it was a huge, yawning cavern of darkness. The huashi immediately lost its balance, and with a roar, rolled into the cavern. "Hold steady!" Li Jinglong hurriedly shouted. The huashi flapped its wings vigorously, as it and Li Jinglong rolled head over heels through the passageway. They fell into the middle of the mountain. There seemed to be a deep abyss behind the cavern. Li Jinglong shouted, "Turn into a human!" "No way!" Zhao Yun shouted back, "You'll fall!" Li Jinglong grabbed the huashi. The heart lamp's light swiftly swept across their surroundings. They found themselves in a vast limestone cavern. The huashi tried to fly upward several times, only to collide with the stalactites. The force of that impact made Li Jinglong slam his head into a broken stalactite. The stalactites around them came crashing down thunderously, falling one by one. The huashi swiftly descended, its sharp teeth closing around Li Jinglong's outer robe, as it landed on the ground. In the darkness, the sword of wisdom had fallen somewhere they couldn't tell. The weak glow of the earth veins crisscrossed in the depths of the cavern, and a swiftly moving underground river flowed across the top of the earth vein. The river glowed with a ghostly blue light. Zhao Yun said, "Empress, please wake up." Li Jinglong moaned. He had been all right after crashing into the stalactite. It was the falling that really did a number on him. The huashi form of Zhao Yun curled around Li Jinglong's body, using its snake body to protect him. It looked left and right, only to suddenly find that not far away, a golden array had appeared on the ground. The earth veins all around them gathered towards the center of the array, and when they arrived in the center, they turned golden. In the center of the array, a glimmering golden long staff was stuck into the ground. The Yao subduing staff. There it is. Zhao Yun said, using his tail to wiggle Li Jinglong, turning him over. I see the artifact you wanted to find. Li Jinglong opened his eyes, only to find that he was seeing double. With great difficulty, he rose to his feet. Zhao Yun began to move in that direction, but as soon as he got close to the array, the cavern suddenly glowed with a bright green light. Li Jinglong immediately sensed that something had gone wrong, and he roared, "Watch out!" A strong gust of wind blew by, and the green light illuminated the entire cavern. The array then flashed with a bright light, and the stalactites came crashing down. Zhao Yun hadn't clearly seen what was in front of him when sharp teeth bit him instantly. He let out a loud bellow from the pain, struggling to break free, only to be sent flying into the air instead. The heart lamp in Li Jinglong's hand glowed with a bright light that broke through the darkness, shooting right for those two beams of green light. A roar then sounded, and that green light actually ducked away from the heart lamp. A huge, thick snake tail came sweeping by, instantly smashing countless stalactites and stalagmites into powder. The huge snake, almost 10 zhang long, raised its head up. It was a whole size bigger than even Xiaoyu, and the snake's body hit the ground like a mountain range, sending the earth itself quivering. Zhao Yun! Li Jinglong bellowed. He dodged the snake's body and pulled out his weapon, only to find that the sword of wisdom had disappeared off somewhere, so he had no choice but to charge forward barehanded. The huge snake then coiled itself up, and it threw the huashi dangling from its mouth heavily against the wall. In the face of this huge snake, the huashi was nothing more than a worm. Its wings had been torn apart by the boss snake's sharp teeth, and its fresh, green blood splattered forth. When it slammed into the cavern wall, its bones broke with dull snaps. Hurry, leave. The huashi fell from the roof of the cavern like a limp straw rope. Li Jinglong. The boss snake had dealt with Zhao Yun in a single blow, and now it turned and launched itself at Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong raised the heart lamp, shining it forth with all his might. The boss snake had remained in the darkness for a long period of time, so it was afraid of this bright light. It lifted its head and let out a roar as it ducked away from the heart lamp, sweeping its tail across instead. When that snake tail hit him, Li Jinglong felt as if he was instantly going to become minced meat, but in that same moment, a furious bellow sounded through the cavern. What are you doing? End chapter.